I'm back. I've always wanted to do that. I would be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right, from Terminator, right? That's what I was just there. But no, hey, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, June the 24th. I'm John Turner alongside Nathan Wangler, and we're excited to have you here tuning in wherever you're watching today, here on the National Soccer Network and Inside the Game podcast. A little new look and feel from previous shows. But Nathan, man, I was off for like a week and a day. I enjoyed it. I'm relaxed. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I just want. Yeah, I want to say thanks to you for coming back. I know that obviously you needed that little stretch off. You were doing some different things, and honestly, like when you're able to free up just 1 hour, maybe just a couple hours in the morning, like you would be amazed what you can do. Like I remember, I when you said the one day we did the show that you had slept through the show. I was very proud of you. All right, that was a very proud moment on my end because I was like, wow, the man actually sleeps. I wasn't sure if you actually slept or if you breathed air or if you ate or if you did any of that stuff. I just thought you were just hardwired. I thought you had like a battery pack that needed to be replaced from time to time because you hadn't seen the light of day for what was a stretch a couple months or whatever it is. And like still even yet this week and this weekend we're going to have a lot of games, and obviously we'll talk about some of the stuff that's coming up. Myself doing Midwest United tonight, and then Flint City with an international friendly tomorrow, which will be interesting to talk about. But yeah, for a stretch there, it seemed like the amount of stuff, the amount of work that has to be done to get done what we've had to in the prime time of soccer, and then you combine that with obviously me being in minor league ball and all the other things going on. It just seemed like for a little bit there that there was this level of exhaustion. So, all respect in the world to your decision to step away, but then obviously excited to have you back at the same exact time. I think I think the dynamic is fun. And I think the entire initial point of starting this, and it was something you had mentioned to me in conversation yesterday. Nice mug, by the way. Big fan. Good work. Yeah.
Yeah, there'll
And
be
I
no
also
Michigan State mugs in this house anytime soon. So
also like the figurines behind you too. That's
thank
quite.
you. Yeah, yeah,
It's a little
yeah.
switch up from the studio, but you got Woody back there. You got a bunch of other things, but
Yeah, I'm
no,
gonna actually be here. I think in the house for a bit, right?
that's
So
fine.
yeah, but yeah,
That's fine. I mean, even on ESPN shows, some of them are just nestled away in their basement. But no, I could tell that it's nice to be able to step away. It's nice to be able to do different things. And honestly, I think people have come to expect that this show is going to talk about a lot of things, and one of those being obviously the United States men's national team, because I think we both hold a certain level of pride when it comes to USMT, MNT, sorry, and we want to see him do well. But yeah, a lot of stuff to cover in the soccer world. Obviously, you kind of kicked off the conversation on your way out the door about the FIFA Club World Cup and what that all looks like, and just how sporadic that's been. It's been fascinating to watch, but it's also been kind of unpredictable at the same time. But yeah, man, a ton to cover. And like I said, I appreciate the work you guys do, and I know we're kind of getting towards the end of the line with some of these soccer leagues. I know League for Clubs has playoffs, so that'll be fun to see who emerges from that group, especially in the NorCal. And a lot of other things going on at the network, but it can be a little bit of a whirlwind. But if you think you got it in you to keep doing the pod, man, yeah, I mean, it just feels like old times. Feels like the first 100.
yeah. No, as they say, the show must go on. Right in the biz, if that's what we want to call this, the biz. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that like anything else, with any organization, and we've talked about this quite a bit on the show. There's pain and growing pains associated
Yeah,
with growing, and so we're managing all that in real time, and it comes in a lot of different ways, shapes and sizes, and I'm extremely grateful for the people who have come before us and that will come after us, and and so it's been a really really cool experience. Yeah, I mean, I needed to take a step back here a couple weeks ago because as I had even talked with you and with John about, was that my my like workload was so much that it wasn't burnout. I wasn't even close to being burnt out. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been doing this for so long that
Got
it's
to be
not
a balance
burnout.
there, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Well, I mean, I haven't. I mean, Bianca and I were just talking about this like yesterday. It's like we have a pool, right? That I haven't been in yet this year, and I like going to the pool. Now,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
ever since I was diagnosed with diabetes last year, and my feet, whatever, it's just weird. Getting in the pool, walking in the water with my feet is just so weird. It's like the weirdest feeling in the world. I know we don't talk a lot about that anymore, but like, because I have it under control,
Mm-hmm.
but like my feet are numb, right? I have when I say numb, like, from like the lower, like under my from my like lower part of my knee, like upper part of my knee,
Mm-hmm.
above my shins, it is a tingling and numb feeling all the way down to my toes, right? So it used to really bother me. It doesn't bother me anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's there. Like when I take a shower, it you could feel this weird. It's weird. It's hard to explain. It's like when you wake up in the morning, your hands asleep, right?
Yeah.
And just
Yep.
imagine walking into the bathroom and just pouring water on that. It would just feel weird. That's what it feels like. So it's very uncomfortable for me to go into the to a pool.
Mm-hmm.
Like it used going into a hot tub. I used to love hitting the hot tub, man. Not anymore. It just doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of me is like, okay, I don't want to go to the pool because I don't want to go sit outside and just hang out there. I want to actually get in the water, but I'm not really into that anymore just because of that. But
Yeah.
um,
But
I,
yeah.
I think our biggest thing too, Nathan, is that because of our model, and this is something that you deal with too, and I think all of our commentators deal with it. We used to go out into the world and sit in a press box and be in the environment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now I drive into a studio in Shelby Township and I sit in a, four wall room with a couple windows and I watch it on a screen. And while it's extremely efficient and while it's fantastic, it is not the same thing as being in it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing that'll ever replace that.
Right.
I know that. I know that. And while our business model and our model is to be in our studios now, it does that probably, to be fair, is probably the thing probably that weighs on me the most is that we're not in it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way to replace that. I think we'll get complacent with it. I don't think we'll ever be like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. I think that we'll just be kind of like, about that. It's a part of the process. But I can tell you right now, I mean, there are things I love about being at a site
Yeah.
like Twin City Bucks and being there, and there's some things I
Mm-hmm.
hate about it. I can smell it. On a Saturday afternoon, getting to Flint at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, pulling into the lot up there, the grassy hill, which is covered with like those weird bugs that like those I don't know what you call them, like gnats, but they're like everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I undo the back of my truck and I get all of my gear out and I put it into our carts and I'm
Yep.
carrying this 200 pounds of we're not carrying it, we're pushing it through these big ass gates and up towards the press box. It's 100 degrees outside. We're sweating before we even get there. The press box at Flint City has no air conditioning, so you're in
Uh-huh.
this 127-degree hot box.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm thinking about all that right now and going, thank goodness I'm in an air conditioning room tomorrow night where we're producing this thing and not there, right?
Right.
Or driving through the I-75 traffic up
Mm-hmm.
to Flint like we
Right.
used to do every single game last year.
Mm-hmm.
There is a tremendous benefit to not having to do that anymore. And if I had to do that still, I don't know what my face would look like right now. So
Yeah.
I mean, so
Yep.
there's a lot of great things about it. So it's again, it's a balancing act, and I don't take that lightly at all. And I think we talk about U.S. men's national team, and I want to get to that. And yes, I did the last time I was on the show, I talked about how I didn't think that the club soccer would elevate soccer in this country, this tournament, the FIFA Club World Cup, and how it wouldn't elevate soccer in this country, and not because of the talented players, but because again, if you're looking at it from the perspective, and we talked about this kind of like before the show started about what are the options for people to go watch a game right now or go do something right now in this country, right? We know that the busiest time of the year for sports in this country, to be fair, is usually right on around September, right? That's when everything is like underway, right? Football starts typically late August, first week of September, right? You got your preseason stuff, right? What happens? Baseball's wrapping up. So baseball and its playoffs start going into September, starts wrapping up, right? What starts in September? Basketball and hockey, right? All
Mm-hmm.
those things start to happen. So we go from, and they go until, again, uh, when do they go to? They go until, so football goes until February. Baseball is over with in October. Hockey and basketball go until, well, now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, it just ended, right? And so, and then baseball starts back up again in March, right? So we know that.
Right.
And then what happens in the summertime? What happens right now? Well, we hit a dead period. There's no football. There's nothing to talk about in regards to football right now. I mean, I think training camp start in the next 2 weeks, three
Mm-hmm.
weeks, but that's
Mm-hmm.
that's it. Okay. And then
Hey,
you
did you see
got
the
your
Rafael Devers trade though?
I okay, yeah, I did. Okay. But I mean though that's I mean
You're like, oh, okay.
as a fan though,
Right.
you're clinging on to something that's happening in the news possibly.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing to do right now. You can
Right.
go watch a baseball game in minor league parks, go watch a soccer game in the MLS. And it's funny when we say there's nothing to do. The MLS is happening right now, right? I'm saying there's nothing to do.
Right.
But the MLS is, here in Michigan, you've got USL Championship Detroit City FC. You've got your amateur games. That's what you've got. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
professional soccer outside of that.
Right.
And so, what are you going to do if you're a family on a Tuesday night in June? Are you going to go to the FIFA Club World Cup? Teams you don't know? I mean, again, I'm not talking about the span of soccer. I'm talking about the quintessential, just loves watching going to sporting events type family. Where they're gonna go to the Muppets on Sunday because their kids want to go see the Muppets, in concert or whatever. You know what I mean? They're not going there because they want. Mom and dad don't go to Muppets because they want to go there. They want to take their kids there. So what do you do as a family? What are you gonna do in the heat of the summer when it's 89 degrees outside with a heat index of 127?
Yeah.
You're not going to a baseball park to fry. Now, you're not doing that. You go to the beach, you go to a water park, you go to a pool. And going to a water park nowadays is expensive.
Right.
Yeah, for me
Yeah.
to take my family to the water park, Nathan, like to go on Monday next week, it's going to cost like $150 to walk in the door.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
what do we really expect people to go running into, a FIFA Club World Cup and have those things sold out?
Yeah.
You'll absolutely going to
On
have
a
sold
Sunday
out.
at noon. Yeah.
Yeah.
On a
I mean,
Tuesday at 3. Yeah. It's
and
not.
that's why it's
Wow.
funny. I asked that question too, buddy. Like, what do you like? What do people do at 25 years old who are single, don't have a family? What do they do on a Sunday at noon?
Yeah.
I'm not single and 25, so maybe you can enlighten me. What happens at Sunday at noon if you're
They go to
single?
wherever the cheapest drinks are. That much I can tell you. You know, if that's at a baseball game, that's at a baseball game. If it's downtown, especially in Grand Rapids, the answer to that question, I guess, is different on where you are in the country. Because obviously, if the only attraction is sports, and there are some towns that are like that, even here in Michigan, where you know talk about Midland, Midland, Michigan, like the main attraction is the baseball stadium. So they might have a soccer game there, they might have a baseball game there, but a pretty good chance that you're going to find yourself there. Here in GR, obviously a little bit different when you talk about beer capital and everything like that, because, people are going to really invest in that side of the nightlife. But, like with the Caps and whatnot, they'll have like $2 beer nights, and that will obviously bring the people out. And you realize you need to do stuff like that to get people in the stands. But you're 100% right. And herein lies the problem with the FIFA Club World Cup, because we're seeing this vast disparity of fan supporter groups and just how much they're selling out, or they're selling at certain places in terms of how many people they're getting in the stands versus other places. There are some matches where it is a barren wasteland where you are getting nobody in there. And again, it's because FIFA's inability to, or rather, they're not marketing towards American fans and marketing towards the international fan, despite being here in the United States. So I don't know if it's just, again, from FIFA's perspective, and I wish I could tell you exactly what their intention was in all of this. I don't know if this is just simply testing out the waters for the World Cup. It might be. I don't know if they're just trying to get the logistics down for the World Cup. That might also be the case, because I could see a situation like that when you go, okay, so not only we have FIFA Club World Cup, we have obviously Gold Cup going on, and then we have the World Cups, right? So all of this, I think, in a lot of ways, maybe from FIFA's perspective, is meant to kind of ramp up to the World Cup. But the expectation of like fans showing up to support at these games, number one, if neither of the clubs are from the United States, unless you throw in, obviously Chelsea's going to have fans. I think Juventus has a decent following. There are going to be certain clubs within that mix who are going to get a lot of supporters. But there are others that, again, are just from parts of the country where, yeah, you're going to get a lot of fans. But if you have it on a Sunday at noon or a Tuesday at 3 or something else, you're just not really going to get a lot of people in. And so that's the whole thing is like, depending on what matchups you're looking at, you have this vast disparity in terms of who is going and going to what games. By the way, I wanted to mention on your whole going remote versus being in person thing, it reminded me a whole lot of being in the Northwoods League. Like there's some baseball stadiums we were on, literally you meant shipping containers at Midwest United, which I've done games there before. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. And couple of different places in Wisconsin, and the Northwoods League was always a fun place. So yeah, a lot of fond memories of hot boxes in the middle of July. But and to wrap up my point on the FIFA Club World Cup, would it have been better to play those games in MLS stadiums? When I think 100%, but herein lies the issue. They're still talking, the club owners are, Major League Soccer, about potentially creating a schedule that more closely resembles in terms of timing what they do in Europe, which means towards the end of August they would start, they would have a midwinter break, then they would wrap up playoffs in May and do something along those lines. Now, would that change things for the northern states? Yeah, and I'm sure places like Chicago FC, especially with them, or Chicago Fire, especially with them getting a brand new stadium, I'm sure that probably, creates some pause to that conversation when we talk about moving the schedule around. But anyways, all that to be said, it is weird just how the variety in terms of what the supporters looked like at the FIFA Club World Cup.
Yeah, I actually just pushed in our comments here that the World Cup seen an average attendance of 34,773 across the first 16 matches. And okay, so if we look at that from the MLS stadium standpoint, again, I think that there are stadiums that have, well, obviously, you look at Atlanta, they have 80,000 seats in them, which is why that match with PSG versus Atletico Madrid, that's a perfect example of 80,000 fans. But your typical MLS stadium is probably in the high teens, so 19, 20,000 upwards
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
25 or 26,000. So
Right.
would the average would go down, but at least every stadium might be packed. And again, I had this conversation with an amateur team yesterday who plays in the Columbus, the old Columbus Crew Stadium,
Mm-hmm.
and you could have the best fan base on Mother Earth in the amateur space, and you could draw 3,000 people to a game. That would
Mm-hmm.
be great. But 3,000 people in a 20,000 seat stadium looks like 50 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It looks like 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, if you watch, you go watch football, like, and you played in Ford Field. You played in Ford Field.
Mm-hmm.
Your game probably had 10,000 fans, but it was
Mm-hmm.
in a stadium that seats 60,000 people. It's massive. So
Mm-hmm.
10,000 people, it's a lot of people in another stadium. But in that stadium,
Mm-hmm.
it's not so much. And so you get in there and you're like, wow, this is a lot. I mean, it's way more people, but if you're in there, you're like, oh, this doesn't look like a lot, right? And again, I wasn't there at the field for you, but I'd imagine that you're in your brain, you're like, man, this is really cool. But it probably didn't feel like there were a lot of people there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe the loud, maybe, but again, you think about that. You go to your fully packed, 4,000 seat stadium at your local high school. 4,000 people. Everyone's in that. Everything's the whole stands are filled and around the
Right.
fence line. You can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
You get into an environment where the stadium is 6, 7 times bigger than in your current environment,
Right.
and it's like 25% full. I'm telling you, it doesn't feel full. So,
Yeah.
and again, maybe I'm wrong, but
But I will say this, and I'll be interested to see what your opinion is on it, because we mentioned it once, and you look at the results, and I'll be completely honest with you. I'm not really all that invested in who exactly wins this FIFA Club World Cup. The only thing I'm interested in seeing is how do the MLS sides do. Right? Seattle Sounders, LA Galaxy, or LAFC, that is the other two American sides out of Major League Soccer. not doing too well. Michael, by the way, drops in. UFL's Michigan Panthers game at Ford Field looks like a ghost town. Yeah, no one goes to that games. Those games. I don't. Even as a diehard football guy, and you've mentioned it, obviously JT with me playing the game and me being involved in that game for the longest time, I just don't get my fix now when it comes to that sport. It's not football time. It's not fall time. So I don't really feel the need to watch those games or go to those games. So I don't to be honest with you, I don't know how long that league lasts, because it's summertime. I don't think anybody's really all that invested until the game actually comes back. But getting back on track with what we're talking about here, Seattle Sounders, LAFC have kind of been dead weight. And we've seen that in the clubs that they've played. However, I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's been going on with Inter Miami, but I do think it is mentioning. Upset victory, their first group stage game. Their third match, just had their third match in group stage, 2-2 draw in that last one. Messi did not score, but it's looking like right now they're going to advance out of the group stage in this FIFA Club World Cup. And what's interesting, what's really important to me is I understand they have Messi, and I understand that obviously Inter Miami has been that one team that in the news has been separated because of just adding that one guy in Messi. And you and I have talked about this before, and I agree with parts of what you say. I don't know if the entire thing, but you talked about how.
Telling my wife, by the way.
What's that?
Telling my wife. Do you agree with parts of what I said?
Well,
it's
not the whole
like,
thing. I'm going to pick it apart here really quick. Hold on.
John, you were like at 25% right. Oh,
You
so
got
does
to
that mean
take
I'm
what you
wrong?
can, though,
Does that
man. I
mean I'm
mean, at
wrong,
least
man? I don't know.
at least you acknowledge you're partially right. That's good. But I you are right in the way that when you say, because American soccer, I feel like players and fans need to see an American soccer player doing well in order to feel like they have a seat at the table. Okay, I think that's an important thing, and that goes back to marketing the right guys. And we can talk about USMNT here in a little bit, but Malik Tillman would be a great person to advertise for that team. Diego Luna, who continues to fight for a spot. Matt Freeze, any one of these guys. Take a young star and try to make something out of them. And the fact that they're out there fighting for their life just for a spot and just continue to win should be enough to get American fans pumped up. But I understand that Messi himself doesn't really change a lot but what I will say is that their success, all it does at the end of the day is it puts, again, the eyes of the world. If they continue to have more success, it puts the eyes of the world on Major League Soccer, which makes the league more important, which means there may be more of a push or a willingness from certain stars to go, hey, I would love to make X amount of money. Yeah, it might be on the downturn, but between what David Beckham did back in the early 2000s, and sometimes I feel like we owe him more of a thank you in the soccer community than what we're willing to give him. I think in the moment it was really cool, and obviously it brought the MLS to a new level. But the trend that it set in place, and especially all these years later, when you're able to get someone like Messi involved in the league, it changed a lot, because now, again, not only is there more eyeballs on it, but if the MLS continues to have more success in this tournament, and if Messi continues to go out and play well, and if they not only advance out of the group stage, but if they can make some noise and even get to the semis or something else along those lines in this tournament, let's say beat one of the big European clubs, now you're talking about, okay, there's an MLS club that is one of the best clubs in the world because they were able to get there. And so just the value of Major League Soccer with their success, right, and with the relative success of Messi, and I'm amazed, by the way, he continues to play games for them, and he's playing for his country at the same time too. Christian Pulisic could never. But as long as they continue to do that, continue to succeed, I think it just puts more eyes on the MLS. I think it puts the MLS in the spotlight more in the soccer conversation because they do well. Now, does that they make a direct impact in terms of developing young American talent? No, 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 no. It impacts Major League Soccer, and we get this, but it puts them more in the spotlight, right? So I can't say I've ever been someone who's cheered for a Miami-based team, but in this situation, if you're carrying the Major League Soccer tag, I want you to go as far as you possibly can because it makes people respect the league a little bit more. And that's what we're fighting to do here. Now, if it's a guy from Argentina who's considered the greatest ever and he's just coming here to live in America on the, because it's easier to play in the MLS and where it is, I get it. I get it. I understand it. But it's soccer, and you can admit that, like, your coach or former coach, like, you get this. It's not just one guy, right? You still have to win with the rest of the guys on the field. You can put someone who's wonderfully talented in a group of nobodies and never go anywhere. So I know people aren't going to say that in the media. They're going to praise Messi, but he didn't score a goal the other night, and they still drew, had a 2-2 draw. So I don't know. I think with their success comes more eyeballs on the league in America and raises at least the level of respect that Major League Soccer gets. I mean, I'm playing FC 25 the other night, and the MLS isn't even a choice in terms of what teams or clubs or whatever you can play for. Like, that's just not a thing. So that's the part, to me, getting everybody to look at the MLS in the United States and going, you know what? It's not bad ball.
Yeah, I think that it's a good comment from, and I don't disagree with the comment from Michael either. A couple things. One, an MLS team going far in this is absolutely going to help, with the MLS image problem. We know that. And so
Yeah.
that's and again, there were three teams in this, and only three MLS teams and only one made it through. Obviously, had those other two teams also found a way to win their group or be part of it and go through on to the next to the knockout rounds, that would have been obviously very helpful for the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially for those who think that Messi is a gimmick, and because I'm one of those people. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that because I think Messi's not a great player, because Messi's an unbelievable player.
Yeah.
But again, I talked about this on when I was walking out of here last week. I said, hey, it's gimmicky. It's no different than putting a beautiful model in front of a car at an auto show. Why do
Mm-hmm.
you do that? It's a gimmick. It's designed to. It's an emotional thing that we do to create an emotion that openly makes you want to buy a car, and if you buy that car, you might get a beautiful one that goes with it. That's how marketing. That's what they do. Messi's just that that auto show
Mm-hmm.
model, man or woman for that matter. And yes, and he'll perform and he'll do a fantastic job and he'll do all those things. But that's what it is. Because again, now over across the pond, is he a gimmick across the pond? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we talk about raising the game here, raising the awareness of the game, what we're doing is we're creating this kind of like this unrealistic false foundation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when Messi leaves the game, how many of those fans are going to stick around and still want to watch MLS games? The fans that followed Messi. That's the true thing. Now, we can talk about what those numbers might look like. For every 100 fans that come to a game because of Messi or buy a jersey because of Messi, how many are going to keep coming to games? Argue 10%. So 10. What happened to their 90? Where do they go?
Mm-hmm.
That that herein lies the problem. Because across the pond, those fans aren't gone. They're still
Yep.
there. They're still watching these games. They're still going to these games. All 100 of them. Not here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say it's a gimmick. I
Mm-hmm.
love Messi. I think what Messi does on the field is unbelievable, and he is a once in a generation player.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that too. And what he can do on the field is extremely special, even at his current age and where he's at on the latter part of his career. It's still an unbelievable thing he can do. Um, but it doesn't push the needle forward for the MLS. And if you're anyone in the soccer community, yeah, but it raises, yeah, the MLS is going to have more fans going to the games than it's ever have, and that's true. But when he leaves the game, like Beckham played for the MLS, and we had created a new. To be fair, like I look at the markets like LA. And to be fair, it's heavy based on celebrity involvement now, right?
Oh
These
yeah,
teams, all
yeah,
these teams are
yep,
about like, I mean, it's all like if you're not if you're a celebrity who's got money, if you're not part of an MLS team now, I feel like you're on the outside. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like it's become like
right,
this celebrity based thing. It's obtainable because the average celebrity can't go up to like an NBA team and become a partner or become an owner in
right,
the NBA team because like
right.
what was the Lakers? What was what? There was a team that was just not the
Did you
Lakers.
did
Yeah,
you
was it
see
Lakers?
they were just sold
Yeah, yeah, $9 billion
$10 billion
dollars. Yeah,
dollars?
so
Nuts.
he bought it for 63 million. Like back,
God,
it's like talk about it. I mean, so like
that's like
if you're
housing
like
now. They got it for a
you know
bag of pennies. Now they're
you
selling it
think
for
Ryan
millions.
Reynolds can you think Ryan Reynolds can go go become a
Yeah,
partner in that
yeah.
Goliath?
Maybe
No,
the Clippers.
yeah, maybe, but it's like so yeah. If you're, I mean, like you got on the women's side, you got what Jennifer Gardner and like all these women celebrities who are like all involved now in the women's game, and which is
Hmm.
fantastic. But it's like, what does Jennifer Gardner bring to the NWSL as an owner? I mean, great actress. I
They're
enjoy
kind of
her
hands
movies.
off.
I
Yeah.
know, but what do they it's but again, it's just weird. It's just I don't know. I just have a hard time, I think, with it because to be fair, it seems disingenuous to me.
Yeah.
And that's probably just the way that it's a lot of different things, but if I look at the state of the MLS, it has definitely grown over the years.
Hmm.
And want to know why? Because it's the only, for the most part, it's been the only professional league in the country too, right? So when you're the only one, right? Let's be honest. Major League Baseball has seen, I believe it's seen a downturn. Now it might be the end of the downturn, maybe on its way back up because they have made some changes to the game that make it move a little faster, and that might help. But it was on a downturn there for I would say from probably maybe 2007 till maybe a couple years ago on a
Hmm.
downturn. Or stagnant. It wasn't growing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the lower levels are, but I do believe like these pop up like Jimmy John's, over here this league they have over here with four
Jimmy
teams.
John's Field.
Yeah, these little pop up leagues that kind of come up. These little
Uh
small
huh.
like I don't even want to call them like summer leagues where I actually think that those have grown substantially
Hmm.
over the years because they offer something that the Major League Baseball doesn't offer.
Hmm.
They offer something that in itself is gimmicky. Look at the Savannah Bananas, right? That is as gimmicky as you can get. But what they have done is taken baseball and made it fun again. That should be an actual hat someone should get, by the way. Make baseball fun
That's
again, right?
summer
Like
league, man. That's summer
it's like,
league. It's independent league. That's those guys can really lean into it too. And I yeah, I find it interesting. So Michael brings this up. Markets like LA and NYC are star driven, even for its sports teams. I agree. It's
not
always
owners
been that
though.
way.
They're not owners. I mean, not I don't
Yeah,
give me one
right.
actor who owns the New York Knicks or celeb who's in the ownership group. I
Yeah.
know Spike
They're
Lee's a
at the
huge
game. They're at the
Spike
game.
Lee, I mean, with
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson, those guys are all like huge fans. They go
Right.
sit in front row, but are they
Mm-hmm.
owners?
Mm-hmm.
I, I agree with you. Like, you go see, of course, you see like celebrities in that town
Right.
going and watching those games, but to be an owner, I mean, to
But
be an
are they?
actual
Yeah.
owner,
The real
you know,
question is, yeah, how involved are they? I mean, is it just by name? Are you just putting your name in there? Is it just an opportunity to get you more spotlight, more attention, or are you actually hands on? I mean, like that's when you look at the Wrexham story, that's what I think makes that whole thing so exceptional and so fun to watch. Exactly what they're doing, is because Ryan Reynolds is so connected to the team. I mean, he's like the Mark Cuban of like, in terms of what his role is at Wrexham. Like he's at all the games, he's passionate, he's loud, he's always sitting there watching. Like I don't see American celebrities doing that at Major League Soccer games. I don't see them lining up like they are
Will
behind
Will
home plate at the
Will
Dodgers.
Ferrell? I know he's an owner. I think with the Seattle Sounders,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
or
that's
it's
true.
LA. But
Yep,
Drew Carey, I know is an owner with
yep.
those part in the ownership group or part of it. See, the thing for me is this. Okay, let's just look at it from the standpoint if you're not an owner. Does anyone here think that Jack Nicholson and Spike Lee pay for their season tickets? Does anyone here actually think that they pay? I'm curious.
Someone pays it for him, but I think that
Somebody, I mean, do you think that Jack Nicholson is paying for tickets to go to the Lakers? I'm not saying he can't afford it, and that I'm just saying that it's more than likely that Jack Nicholson and his team is like, hey, I'll continue to go to your games as long as you pay for them, and I'll be the one that they put the camera on. And you know what that does for the Lakers is Jack Nicholson was sitting in my seat. So my guess is that's been negotiated. And same thing with Spike Lee. So again, which when you have that kind of money and you have that kind of notoriety, it's real easy to wave it around and get what you want, right?
Hmm.
Because all these commercials, right? You see celebrities doing like your T-Mobile commercial, right? Well, they probably have free T-Mobile service for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
as part of whatever the money they were compensated. So, I think that for us to say that, and it's great. What it does is you see Jack Nicholson and you want to go to that game because Jack Nicholson's there. When you go to a
Right.
sporting event now, what are you looking for? You're looking for the team, but you're also going to say who's in the crowd. Who
Yeah.
am I going to bump into? Right. When I went to the
Hmm.
Lions games, we bumped into Tim Allen all the time. And growing up as a kid, watching Tool Time and seeing Tim Allen at a Lions game, that was awesome. You know what I mean? So you see these things and you're like, holy crap, this is unbelievable.
Hmm.
Of course it's gimmicky. I don't think for 1 second I think that sports as a whole is not a gimmicky thing. But
Right.
can the MLS afford to be gimmicky? You know what I mean? Like the NFL could absolutely. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's not much that's going to damage the NFL. I mean,
Hmm.
even when the downturn, I would say the downturn with what their credibility was during the whole like take a knee thing and that whole thing that was going on with all of that and the nightmare that was created from just like how to handle all of that and what was going on,
Hmm.
because that was a huge thing. I mean, people across this country were conflicted about that. People were like, I'm not watching the NFL anymore.
Hmm.
Really? You're gonna stop
Yeah.
watching football on Sundays? Please, Mike.
Right.
Like, I mean, come on.
Give
My
me a
dad's like,
break.
I'm not
Yeah.
every Sunday, my dad's like, I'm not watching the Lions anymore. I'm not watching the Lions anymore. They're terrible. Every Sunday he watched the Lions. He'd say
Uh-huh.
the same exact thing at the end of it. Well, that was terrible. I'm not watching the next Sunday. And here we are, we're like carving out time to watch the Lions game. It's like, come on, people. We know you're gonna watch the game. Don't make it sound like you're not gonna watch. I'm gonna cancel my NFL ticket.
Yep.
So
Right.
you go to the bar instead.
Hmm.
Like, it's like, it's like I'm sorry. There are people who definitely will do that, I'm sure, but the vast majority of us are not like that. We want to
Right.
still watch the football, you
Right.
know. And the cr- and they, and what's it, Taylor Swift? I mean,
Oh,
yeah, but to be
that is true.
fair, I
It is
mean,
true.
first things first. I don't get why any guy in America would want to date Taylor Swift. I mean, she's going to write a song about you if it doesn't go well. I mean, every song
Right.
she's ever written has been about a bad guy she's dated. So,
That's fair.
I
I
mean,
think
that's why you don't
that's
want
fair.
to.
You're in trouble. You know you're in trouble. Like let's hope Kelsey can figure it out. But no, you know I think to Michael's point, I think what he's trying to say is that even though it might seem gimmicky, they have star power attached to them.
For
And the
sure.
one thing we can say is that the MLS, again, with Beckham doing what he did, and now with Messi being where he is, it at least brings star power to the table and it brings this international brand to Major League Soccer. Now, that's great for American owners, number one, because they're going to take advantage of that, and the MLS should take advantage of that. But it also shows you at the same time, and I'm sure Michael would agree with this point, is that if you want to, number one, right, money wise, they're not struggling in Major League Soccer. They'll figure something out for you. That's number one, and we know this because all the owners really kind of had a hand in bringing him over here because they realized how that would change a lot. Number two, obviously, get to live in the United States, but also number three, you get to be the head of a franchise. You get to be someone that can be the guy on a team if you come over to Major League Soccer. Not only that, but again, the brand awareness that he brings to the game also changes a lot too. Because let's face it, he's not going to Messi is not someone you can build a franchise around in the highest leagues in Europe right now because he's older, right? He's getting towards the end of his career. He's not someone that, he's not some spry 19, 18, 20-year-old, even younger than that. I mean, in some cases, as we've seen with some of the clubs over there, but he's not one of those pieces where you're like, hey, we can sign him to however many years, throw this bonus, have a huge, transfer clause and really be able to lock him down and build around him. He's just not that player anymore. And he's too expensive. So he's not going to be someone that when it comes to European football or anywhere else in a lot of those higher leagues, whether it be Bundesliga, whether it be Serie A, anywhere over on, across the pond, it's going to be really hard to justify getting someone like Messi and being like, this is someone that we can build a franchise around because he's just not at that point of his career. But when those guys look at Major League Soccer, there is an opportunity to be the guy. I mean, you think about a team like LAFC, they just won the MLS Cup. I mean, they didn't advance out of the group stage, just won the MLS Cup. So if you get someone from Europe and you sprinkle them into that group, all of a sudden you're the guy. You are the guy. You are the attraction, and you're going to fill up the stands just because you showed up. I'd rather a gimmick be on the field than actually producing for its team and actually producing for its team. That's true. That's true. I mean, he's
Yeah,
not, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm not. I said that. I mean, agreed. But if you're talking about the long-term stability of a league, is Messi going to give that to you?
He
No,
generates
no, he's
money.
not. Well, long-term stability in regards to fan base,
No, right?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, are you going to become a lifelong Inter Miami fan because Messi played on that team?
You don't think for the Miami fans, though, that makes a difference? You know, that you don't think they're going to remember watching Messi and maybe they'll hold on to that and their
Well, let me ask you this
ultras won't see
question:
a boost because of it?
Sergei Fedorov played for the Detroit Red Wings,
Yeah.
right? Right,
Right.
part of the Russian Five, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Kidnap those guys.
Are did were you a were you a fan of the Red Wings before Fedorov?
I don't think I was old enough.
Yeah, see, okay, but you were a fan after Fedorov, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was a fan. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I want you to take that same concept though, right? And as let's say you're growing up, and again, we're talking about soccer, so this is soccer's different story, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to put soccer in the same ballpark as hockey, right? Here we were called Hockey Town for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you take a player, and again, there's not other leagues, so in other sports, there isn't like a football league outside of the Canadian Football League that's
Mm-hmm.
really of any notoriety, right? So it's
Right.
hard to really compare this,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you could probably do it in baseball, maybe, but again, I don't think there's another level. I mean, Major League Baseball is it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
NFL is it, NBA is it. Other leagues around the world don't hold the same weight,
Right.
right? The MLS is the G League of the Premier League across the pond. I mean, like whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? And so I feel like the it's hard to compare. But do I think the Inter Miami fans like Messi? Of course. But do I think that there are fans out there that were not Inter Miami fans before and are definitely Inter Miami fans now? Absolutely. The question becomes, will they be fans of him when he leaves? You know? And the key, and then this is what Steve Best puts in, which is so Messi maybe has a year or two left in Miami. That's then what? Who do they bring in after him to keep the hype and interest in that team? And so it's a great point. What is it going to do for that team when he leaves? I don't know what the attendance was like before Messi. It's like we should have like that line, right? Like before Christ, after Christ, before Messi, after Messi in Miami. See what that looks like.
Right.
Right? Before Messi, what was it like? After Messi, what was it like? I
Mm-hmm.
think it's an important thing to know because
Mm-hmm.
to be fair, Messi and again in his buzz has created definitely a buzz across the league, and attendance is definitely up when he shows up. No different than when Michael Jordan was in the league, or again with LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. Right when those teams
Right.
when they were playing, those things were gonna be sold out. I mean, those
Yeah.
tickets would double in price. All right, they do
Mm-hmm.
the exact same thing with Messi.
Right.
But when Messi leaves, who is the next player? And that herein lies the problem. We need American players, American-based players who've come up through the American system to lead the way. And if you do that, the teams and the cities will fall in love with those players and they'll want to be a part of those teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then when a player like Messi comes in, all it does is reinforce your growth and reinforce the what you've already grown.
Right.
That's what it does. But what we're
Right.
doing here in the MLS is we're saying, go get Messi. We'll give Messi the keys to the kingdom. We'll offer him ownership in the entire damn league, like we did for Beckham. We'll make him promises
Right.
that you would not make to any other player. There is not a player in America, Landon Donovan, homegrown player, Clint Dempsey, none of them were offered a stadium team in Miami. Beckham was offered that. Why? Because to get Beckham over here, they had to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. And so And so that's the thing. And it's why the league is worth more today than it was yesterday, because you're bringing in players who are going to generate revenue. But what are you giving them in return? I'm really curious. While we can say and argue what these teams are valued at and what the league is valued at, I would argue that they're giving a lot of ownership to players who, they're only using them to get here to do that. Message driven cash cow marketing machine with impact will be known for years to come. America saw a massive boost in youth soccer participation, which helped to usher in the with Pele. Yeah, a different time though, Michael. I mean, back then, you had your mom and dad coaching you. Back when I was playing, my early days of playing soccer, it was like my dad grabbing a how-to coach book from some library and trying to figure out how to
Right.
coach a bunch of knucklehead teenagers.
Hmm. But
Now
if
there are all these
yeah,
coaches everywhere that have high training. I mean, coaching in this country is excelled.
yeah,
So I don't know if it's going to translate,
yeah.
but I
I
guess
do
time will
think,
tell.
yeah, I do think he's had some sort of impact. And here's what I'll say. And I'll open this question up to you because I think it's important to kind of chew on this one. If his participation in the MLS brings more talented players from different parts of the world to come play in Major League Soccer, right? If somehow the MLS is able to figure out a way to get these guys away from their clubs, away from their other commitments to come play here in the United States in the MLS, right? If it leads to that, right? I'm not necessarily focusing on the American youth development, but I'll get to the Americans here in a second. If they're able to do that with showing the Messi story, with what he has come over and with what he's done with Miami, not only does it raise the league, but here's the other part of it, right? The Americans, when you are coming up in the United States, we know this. It's not the goal is not to play in Major League Soccer. That's not where the goal is. If anything, you might get in there really young, and then once you have an opportunity to go overseas, you'll go overseas. But
Yeah.
we're in a stage now where you look at the US men's national team, the amount of international players that we have, I mean, the majority of them are playing overseas. Now you do have obviously your Diego Lunas mixed in there and guys who are playing in Major League Soccer, they're not playing in Europe. You're going to have those collection of guys, but if you bring more superstars in, my question is, if you raise the level of play in Major League Soccer, now you create an environment where these players that are coming up in the United States don't look at the MLS as a hindrance to their growth anymore. They look at it as a place where you can go and play with the best. That's where I think, in my mind, a lot of this changes, because we will never, in my mind, will never have a product that will ever compete with the Premier League or the Champions League or Bundesliga or La Liga, any of these other. We won't. I just don't. It's not. It's not realistic when you consider the amount of different things we have here in the United States, whether it be football, whether it be baseball, whether it be all these other major sports. And I know there's a lot of people that live here. And I do think the soccer fandom is growing in the States, obviously, most of it for European football. But if Messi is somehow able to get more superstars to come participate in Major League Soccer, now, again, it's probably going to take years and years, and it's not going to happen tomorrow, and it raises the overall play of the MLS, that's where I think a lot of this can change, because then American soccer players who are coming up, I've never called soccer players soccers before. I think that's funny. Young soccers. But if they get there and they realize, okay, I'm not just going to play with a ragtag collection of very talented players, but clearly not the best in the world in Major League Soccer, I'm going to participate in a league that has some of the best players, whether that be Messi, whether that be, I don't know, insert a name of any of these other guys that might come here on the downturn of their career, or just might see an opportunity to make a little extra money or equal money or more with the contract that they would get here in the US. If that happens, if they create a more competitive top league in the United States and the MLS, and something that, again, is respected in the international community because they can make it deep in the FIFA Club World Cup, now you're talking about American players that want to stick around in the US. And once that's the thing, that's a hard thing, right? Because once American players started to find their foothold in Europe, that to a lot of people seemed like the progression that we needed to have. Now we look at our national team and we're able to boast all these different clubs. Obviously with what Pulisic has done in Italy, like, he's the man over there. I realize that club didn't really do too well that he was on this year, but he still very much is a star in that league. But he's not the only one who's making an impact in these different European leagues, and we even see it in the FIFA Club World Cup. But now it's almost like we're trying to go backwards, and that's the really hard part in all of this, because it's almost like getting a really good job. And I remember getting this advice early in my career, like, it's hard to go backwards. Like, you can always make more. You know what I mean? You can always make a little bit more. You can always do a little bit more. You can always continue to slowly go the right direction. But if you were to step away from this and do this, and now you're making, $50,000 more dollars a year, it's really, really hard to justify going backwards, right? And so I think we're at this weird stage where, like, even Alexi Lalas, in the conversation we had with him, that initial pride of, we're going to have our own league, like all the top guys then. Now, again, very different game, but there was that excitement. But then guys started to become good enough and specialized enough they could go over it. Now we're like, okay, how do we bring them back? And I think by introducing more superstars, again, you create a level of competitiveness in that league that really, to the American player, justifies wanting to stick around and play in Major League Soccer and not have to go anywhere else. Michael says, would Shep Messing have had a career he's had if it wasn't for Pele and company? I don't know. I'll let you answer that one, Turner. But I don't know. I think it creates an interesting
Maybe, but
dynamic.
yeah, but okay. So I think there's a couple things. One, have you ever played in a B team before, Nathan?
Like in any sport, just like not the A team, but the B team.
Like junior varsity. Remember junior
Yes.
varsity?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So if someone told you that you could get paid the most amount of money to play in the JV team, would you want to do it?
If I felt like I could be the guy, maybe. Maybe. I
Okay.
guess it all
So
depends on what I want
I,
out of
I,
that
I want you,
situation.
I want you for a second to think of the MLS and the Premier League or leagues across the world outside the US as varsity versus JV.
Yeah.
And look at it from the player's perspective. If you're a player who's trying to earn the most amount of money, right? Earn credibility, earn the accolades, have the ego to go with it, all those things. Are you playing on the JV team or playing on the varsity team? Where do you
If
want to
my
play?
if my body supports it, and if I'm capable of playing on the varsity team, then yeah, if I'm in an important role on the varsity team, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And, once you're at the varsity level, do you want to go back to JV?
No,
No. So I think if you look at
yeah,
that perspective, I think
yeah, like going
the players
backwards.
will tell you. Yeah,
Yeah,
so again, Messi was brought here because, again, competing night in and night out at the highest level in the world is something that can wear on you. And coming
yeah,
here, he is able to still play at a high level, but not being challenged in the same way. And if you're a player who's looking to develop, you're trying to get yourself in the most challenging environments that you can, because that's the only way that you can grow as a player.
yeah,
And so the players that have chosen to go across the pond are doing so because they can, not because they want to, right? There's a big difference between that. The players that want to, there's a lot of players that want to. The players that can, they aren't. Oh, no, that's what I said. The ones that can are. The players that want to aren't,
mm-hmm,
right? And so, and if they've tried to go across, and they might find themselves in a fourth division team or a
mm-hmm,
third division team, right? And so, for me, that is again, that's when we know when that stops happening, and we have players coming here on and they make it their first choice. That's when you know the MLS has made it. You see a Suarez coming here in year two or year three of his peak play, not in year 13 on the downturn,
mm-hmm,
right? That's how you know. Again, if we look at it, other leagues, right? There's not a player in the NFL playing there who's saying, I'm going to leave the NFL to go play in the UFL during the summer. There's not a single player in the NFL that would ever do that, ever, if they could still play there. The only reason they're going there is because they can't play at the NFL anymore. Period. Again, basketball players. There's not a single basketball player in the NBA that's going to go to the G League, right? To go play in the G League if they can continue to play in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And Major League Baseball is a little different because a lot of times you'll send a player down to get healthy again, right? To maybe they're in a slump, they just need more at bats, whatever it might be. That I look at the MLB is a little different. It's structured completely differently,
Yeah.
and the same thing with hockey. Hockey is structured differently well too because you would send
Mm-hmm.
a player to Grand Rapids to get their reps. They came off of an injury. It's different,
Right.
but but it's not the same. It's not the same thing in other sports.
Mm-hmm.
And soccer is just like that. Where what are you gonna no you don't do that, so it's that's how I know that where we are. And if you put it in that perspective, I think it makes a tremendous difference in the way you look at this. There's not a single player in the MLS that wants to play. Okay, I take it back. All these players in the MLS, I would imagine, would love to go play in the Premier League,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
don't think if you were to poll them, how
Yeah.
many would want to go play in the Premier League?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could argue in a lot of ways that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's a
Okay. I'll
goal.
go play in the Premier League, right? U.S.
Yeah.
men's national team is probably a goal, but hey, if I'm a defender on LA Galaxy, I want to go to the Premier League. I want to be a defender, for Chelsea, Liverpool. I want to defend. I want to play on that team,
Yeah.
right? Go and pull every player in Europe. What they would tell you is that they would like to come to America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
The MLS is just the vehicle that gets them there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that big difference, right? And so I think that that's also another thing that's got to be realistic about. If you're
Mm-hmm.
a player that's played across the pond and you want to come and be a part of something really cool, you come to America because America is freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
Yeah.
everyone wants to be here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because it's. Let's see, John, I mostly agree with that, but Beckham. My bad, I hit the wrong button. I hit it two
Oh,
at the
you're
same
good.
time. Go ahead, hit it, hit it. There you go.
John, I mostly agree with that, but Beckham, Zlatan, and others choose to play in MLS when they could have remained and did afterwards
Yeah,
playing in
they wanted to be.
top
They
tier
wanted to be in
leagues.
America. They
Yeah.
wanted to be in America.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing. That's why they wanted to be here.
Yeah.
And that's the argument. I'm telling you that right now. It has nothing to do with soccer. Soccer is just a vehicle for them. Beckham wanted to be here in America.
But maybe being in
Period.
America is the bait. Like if we want to use a
Oh,
fishing analogy, I mean,
sure,
maybe there's some level of that
sure.
to it too.
But
I don't
the
think there's
problem
any
is the
problem with
problem
that.
is that Beckham wasn't going to come here at the top of his game, and that's the problem. We can talk about it all day long. There is not a single player on
Yeah.
earth that's going to come here at the peak of their game.
Right.
Give me an example in the history of the game.
Right.
If you say Pele was at his peak in 1994, I would argue that that's not the case. Okay, still a fantastic player, but Pele came to New York and played in that league because he wanted to be in America. Period. Okay, I'm sorry, that's how that was. But name me a player in the history of the sport of soccer that came to America in their peak, when they were at their peak, at the highest level of play, when they could sign that contract that would give them gazillions of dollars. There's not one. You can't name one. They all come here on their downturn. They come here when they feel like they just can't give it the same day in and day out that they did when they were at their peak. Because there's not a player on earth that wants to play for the JV team. I'm sorry. Now, if you pay me to be on the JV team more than you're going to pay me to be over there, or if you hang a nugget over my head that I'm going to get access to my own team and make billions of dollars one day for that, and promise me the whole everything, and I get to come to America for free, absolutely do it. And that's what you've offered to these players. You've offered it to them, and they've taken it. And absolutely, they should. Ronaldo. Why isn't he here? Why isn't Ronaldo here?
Yeah. Well, and how do we
Ronaldo was
keep them
offered
here?
seriously
Yeah.
money. I mean, he was offered some.
Yeah.
I mean, some. We'll talk about fu money he got.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
you know,
It's
and
also keeping him here though too, because I mean I look at the example of Zlatan, and I think that's a good example. But how do you keep them here? That's the other thing. Like not only are we
keep them here. You mean keep them here on the downturn, or keep them like?
just keep them here in
I want to
general.
keep. You want to. You again. It's development. The problem is that again, if you're a player in football, you want to make it to the NFL. You haven't done what you want to do until you've gotten there. You might go to the Canadian Football League on the way there. You might go play in the Arena Football League like Kurt Warner did. But if Kurt Warner didn't make it to the NFL, if he stopped playing football, we wouldn't have heard of Kurt Warner.
You know,
His story,
this
right?
the
He did
Saudi
everything
FU
he
money
could.
is significantly more.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's way
Yeah.
more money.
Yep.
So, but my point though is that you might find yourself going to the Canadian Football League before you get here,
Mhm.
and that's fine.
Mhm.
But you haven't made it until you got there.
Right.
Until the MLS, which we just said will never happen. The MLS will never surpass the Premier League. It won't.
Mhm.
To say it's impossible is probably the wrong thing to say, but it's pretty damn close to it. It's been
Yeah.
around for 70 years before the MLS even existed, 60
Right.
years before the MLS. I mean, you're talking about history that, it's like, okay, if tomorrow, like this, again, if we compare it, the UFL, will it ever surpass the NFL? Will there ever be another professional league in this country from the standpoint of the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL that can be created and compete with those leagues and do so in a way that would actually make them better than the existing league?
Probably not. Probably not.
No. And if I went
Right.
over to the United Kingdom right now and said I'm starting my own league called Turner's Premier League, would I be able to compete and beat the best teams in the United Kingdom?
Mm-mm.
Beat that league, be the best league in that area, be the best league in the world? No. And I think that's where we have to be realistic. The MLS will always be the number one. I mean, I would say always be. It will probably be the number one league in this country. But it'll always be a far, far distant second, distant third to other leagues around the world. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so I feel like that's something that's a really important thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And again, if you're a player in this country and you want to play at the highest level, of course you want to play in the highest level in this country. And that right now, we've been talking about this in regards to this new league by the USL. If you're a player who's coming up through college and want to go play at the next level at the professional ranks, you'll settle for USL championship with the mindset of getting to the MLS. I'm going to use it to get to the MLS. It's the same thing's going to happen with this new league in the USL. You're going to have teams and players that will go to that league on the way up towards going to the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have players who are on their downturn who will go to that league because that's what they
Yeah.
do.
And to Michael's point, I hope it's a trend. I mean, like I said, who knows what it looks like in 20, 30 years? That's fair. And we know that Europe has the one thing that
I,
we don't
I
have in the
ask him that
United States.
question though. We need to ask. You really think that way, Michael? I mean,
It
with everything
the,
you
the,
see in soccer, you really think that in 20 years, that the U.S. men's landscape and the MLS will potentially be superior to that of the Premier League? I
the
just
one,
need you to. Yeah, I'm just saying. We're
yeah,
not talking about like we're talking about becoming the league in the world. We're not talking about like again the league that we become the destination. You really think in your heart of hearts that in 20 or 30 years that the United States, based on what you see currently on the soccer field, that we're going to be better or equal to the Premier League in 20 or 30 years?
I don't know if he's talking about the Premier League specifically. I just think he thinks we could be one of the best leagues. And it's because in Europe, they have this thing that we don't have, which is, again, the history that's what he means when you talk about 20, 30 years down the line, because they have the history attached to their names. We don't. So
It, it,
that's
it's
the other
it's
big
not so
part of it.
much it's not so much what you see in the field today. It's what you see coming up the fight 20 years from now, and the players at the players right again. Take the best players at the youth level in this country right now, and take them over across the pond and take those best players who are right now playing at 5 and 6 years old. You're going to sit here and tell me that the players over in Europe are equal or equivalent to, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the current state of soccer. We're talking about, okay, so 30 years from now is the 6 year old who's playing soccer right now somewhere in America and the 6 year old playing soccer somewhere around the world. You know what I mean? That's what we're talking about. And if you think that the 6 year old here in the United States is better than the 6 year old over in the United Kingdom, I would have an argument about that right now. Are they better? And that's what we have to talk about because that's the play. And then more importantly, identifying those players and getting them through the system because it's money. In the United States, it's money. It's big money, right? So and it's a great topic. I think this is a great topic to continue to have because I want the MLS to succeed. I want the MLS to be the best league in the world. But how do you do that? How do
Right.
you get there?
Right.
Well, it means that Europe is going to have to have some shortcomings. It means the European game is going to have to change because, you think about, you know, a fast runner, right? The best in the world. Who's the fastest? Who's the best golfer in the world? Who's the best whatever, right? Well, how do you beat them? A lot of times you're waiting for them to beat themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're kind of waiting for, right? You're waiting for them to kind of self implode. And it's true, right? You watch, hey, Tiger Woods every Sunday would be wearing that red whatever, right? How many times did he implode on a Sunday? It was very rare. If he was going into a Sunday leading, he was going to win,
All right.
right? And that's the ML, and that right now is like the European game, right? It's the cross the pond, right? They're wearing the Sunday red. They're in the lead, and what we have to hope happens is that they self implode. That they along the way they have some missteps, and they mismanage players, and players want to come here because of it, and players come back because of it. And when that starts to happen, then that gives you a chance.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you a fighting chance because they self implode. Then absolutely we have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But right now they're in the lead. They hold the golden ticket, and we have to try and take it from them. They have like a 300-meter head start on a 400-meter track, and we are, we're injured. So anyways, but yes, I don't know if I ever used the word never. I just said that it's a long shot, and I don't want to say impossible. I
Yeah.
don't want to say that, but you're talking about low percentage. Low percentage is what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's minimal chance. And it's because of my experience in soccer and what I see right now at 6 years old and 7 years old around this country. I can tell you right now that we're not even close. And
Mm-hmm.
it shows on our field. It shows in our games. Right now, it shows in our games. Again, take one player on the U.S. men's national team right now. Take one player in the MLS who's playing at a high level that would play on a World Cup team in 2026. Name one that would start. That's how you know. If we could take five of our players, maybe starting for Argentina, I wouldn't be having this conversation right now, but none of them would start. Matter of fact, none of them would make the team. Pulisic wouldn't even make the team. Wouldn't even make the team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part that I think that is important to talk about because
Yep.
that's how we compare.
Yep.
But we can talk about this obviously on future shows. But hey, that is a wrap here on episode number 107. We appreciate you stopping by here as always. I'll be back at it again tomorrow morning at the same time, same place, and continue this conversation. We didn't talk about U.S. men's national team at all today, but we will get in the conversation about the Gold Cup and what they're doing. The question I have, and I think we should ask tomorrow, is what's happening with the U.S. men's national team in regards to the Gold Cup? Are they meeting your expectations? Are they not meeting your expectations? Yeah, they got out of the group stage. Great. All right. Did they do it in the manner in which you wanted them to? Did they do it decisively? I mean, they did do it decisively. They won all their. I mean, they got 9 points. They won all three games. But did they do it in a way that what you feel better about the situation? It's a question we're going to ask tomorrow, and we're going to
Yep.
hopefully answer it and hopefully be part of that conversation because that's a great way to look at this. Because to be fair, this is something they should just be winning every time they step on the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of tournament they should just be winning and it's a conversation I think we should have. We'll have it tomorrow, but that's a wrap here on 107. I'm Jonathan Turner. That's Nathan Wenger. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we'll be back out of here tomorrow, same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game.